So I went to go see Tolkien tonight, or Tolkien, the biopic directed by Dome Karukowski, the story about the early life of J.R.R. Tolkien, the creator of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And me being somebody who grew up a fan of Tolkien, I first read The Hobbit when I was, I think, like 11 years old. Same thing with Lord of the Rings shortly after that. Then, of course, I went to go see the Peter Jackson movies when they came out. So I was interested in seeing this biopic because I really like Bohemian Rhapsody, and Rocket Man's coming up, and biopics can be fun. This is, of course, the first movie under the Fox Searchlight banner that's being released by Disney, even though it was obviously shot way before. And the movie stars Nicholas Hoult as J.R.R. Tolkien, and the whole story of this film is his early life as a kid, and then him growing up into going into World War One. But prior to that, meeting his friends and his real life fellowship, and of course the love story of when he met Edith, and their kind of back and forth and whatnot. So it is a story told about the man Tolkien, and they try to sprinkle some stuff in there to tease what he would eventually write with Lord of the Rings, and some of the visuals there were good, but I felt like the movie really kind of lost me about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into the film. I think the movie's not really that engaging. I don't feel it's that imaginative. I feel like the story, although accurate from what I understand, even though the Tolkien estate is saying that the movie is not endorsed by them, even though as far as I heard, they haven't even seen the movie yet. But the whole story kind of talks about, kind of what would mold him into the man who he would become. His mom, his friendship, obviously the fact that he loves languages and how he would use that to kind of create the world of Middle Earth, and kind of like his teachers and things like that. Performance-wise, Nicholas Hoult was great. I mean, he's a pretty good Tolkien, even though there's not a lot of footage of Tolkien, so there probably wasn't much for him to study. There is some documentaries out there that cover his life. And to be honest with you, I would suggest that if you want to learn more about Tolkien, I would probably read up, or I would probably get a documentary, mostly because the film, I feel, is kind of middle of the road. It's not that great of a movie. It's really like a 5 out of 10 or a 3 out of 5 film. It's got, like I said, some good performances, but the movie kind of doesn't engage you enough. It's not too interesting, and it's just really, it needed a little bit more imagination. Like I said, they did do some good stuff here. There was a shot of Tolkien having like a vision of like a Balrog and a dragon, and like before he even wrote Lord of the Rings. They really focus on the Hobbit closer to the end of the film. But as the movie progresses, because most of it takes place, like the wraparound story is him in World War One. That's the wraparound story, trying to save his friends. And as, it starts off there, then they have flashbacks going back to his childhood, his teenage years, that whole thing. Some of the stuff I thought was kind of wasted early on. I get why they put it in there, but I don't think it was really necessary to tell the story of Tolkien's life. And it just felt a bit sluggish, the movie did. I thought it was not very insightful of a movie either. Like, there were some things that were kind of, and that might have to do with the fact that Tolkien isn't really around and hasn't been around for a long time, so they really couldn't interview him, or they obviously didn't even interview the estate, so I don't know where that stands, but kind of a bad time to release this film with Detective Pikachu being out, which I am going to go see this weekend. And then I'll do a review on that, I'm sure. But the movie, again, it's an average film, probably one you should skip. If you want to know more about Tolkien, I would suggest reading up on some of the documentaries that have been out, or read some books about him. But the movie, I would say skip it, in my opinion. Now, again, though, the performances are great, and if you really, really love Tolkien, you're probably going to see this movie and probably pick some things apart. But other than that, I would just say it's an okay movie. I mean, it has some good cinematography, great set pieces, great overall, the way the movie is shot, I thought was really well done. It's just that the story itself just doesn't, really resonate that hard. I mean, it's not a bad movie at all. Don't get me wrong. It's not a terrible movie at all. It's a good movie. It's just, it's an okay movie. It's not one that I would say go out and spend your money on now. There are other films you can probably see. Endgame is still in theaters, and that's a real big ride. So that's my thoughts on Tolkien. I say skip it or wait for Redbox Netflix. That's my review, and I thank you for watching.